Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Taking a look at the 2024 Men's Olympics basketball tournament here. Going to be looking at a few of the bets that I have. I've got some futures on the MVP, who's going to win some groups. Not going to worry too much about who is going to win the whole thing because it is going to be the U.S. Short of a really, really bad shooting night for them and a really, really good shooting night for another team, I cannot see them losing a basketball game in this tourney. So we're going to find a couple other ways to get value. I'll run through a few of the teams, but mostly I want to get into the bets that I already have laid down in the futures. I already put those in the Discord. Link is in the description of the video if you need it. So definitely jump in there and check it out. And let's get right into it. Quick look at the rankings and the way that these groups are laid out. First things first, ignore the rankings. The only one that I fully agree with is the USA is the number one team in the world. Everything else, very much up to interpretation. And these rankings are based on a bunch of things that really don't have anything to do with who is on these squads going into the Olympics. These are FIBA rankings, right? So that's going to be a little bit different than the way that these Olympic teams have been put together and who's actually playing. Group A, considered the group of death because Canada's filthy, Australia is very good, Spain definitely overrated with that number 2 ranking. I want to make that very clear. That might be the biggest misranking is the Spain at number 2 and Canada at number 7. Like they're better than Australia and Spain. We'll talk about that more in a sec. And then Greece is Giannis, as well as a few fringe NBA players, including Nick Kalathis, who was in the league for a little bit, but not much to expect from them unless Giannis goes completely out of his mind. I don't think he's the type of player to dominate a tournament like this. You've got to be a lot more like Luka or Jokic, where you can really just control the game at the speed that you want it. Giannis needs the game to go fast, and if it doesn't, he's not quite as impactful as everybody else, other players are capable of being. Group B, Germany, France, that's who it's between right here. France is not number 9. That's the second biggest or third basically biggest misranking is that France is at number 9. When you put Wemby on the floor with Rudy Gobert, plus they've got a couple other guys we'll look at in a second, it's just going to be dominant. Keep in mind, there is no defensive 3 seconds. So when they throw Rudy and Victor Wembanyama on the floor at the same time, they have basically the 2 best shot blockers in the NBA on the floor without the need to move away from the basket. They can stand right in front of the rim, no defensive 3 seconds, like we're saying here. So one of those 2 teams is going to win that group. We'll talk about that in one sec. And then in Group C, yeah, Serbia might be able to give the U.S. a run for their money, but the U.S. did blow them away in qualifying there. There seems to be something where if you have Bam and AD on the floor at the same time, you might be able to actually guard Jokic. And that's what we saw in that game, is that when you have the 2 best defensive centers, we'll call them, in the league on one team against Jokic, that's the way that you can probably slow him down. Before we get into my first pick here, I do want to make sure you guys understand the format. During group play, wins equal 2 points, losses equal 1 point, and the forfeit, if you have to forfeit for whatever reason, you get 0 points in that game, right? Now, the really interesting thing is going to be, I mean, there's tiebreakers, I'll say that, and we don't need to go into the intricacies of them. Points against, points for, obviously head-to-head. Those are all tiebreakers in the groups. But what's interesting is that the top 2 teams advance in each group, which is expected, but there's 8 teams that need to make it to the quarterfinals, so we need 2 more. Those come as the top 2 third-place teams. So once again, tiebreakers will come into play, not head-to-head because it'll be teams from different groups. But if you come in third in your group, you still have the shot to advance if you're in one of the top 2 teams out of the third-place teams. So you win the group phase here on the left. You can see 2 teams in third will make it forward, and then the top 2 teams in each of the 3 groups. Then you reshuffle things and you pit the team from what they call one of the best 2 teams will play one of the bottom 2 teams. So 1 and 2 will play 7 and 8. 3 and 4 will play 5 and 6, but it's 8 playoff teams, and they order things so that the top team plays the 8 team, 2 versus 7, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5. You get it. Then from there, they move forward. So just keep that in mind that if a team like Canada doesn't win its group and makes it forward, but doesn't really do as well in the group stage, they could play the U.S. right away in the elimination round, and that would be a really big misfortune for them. All right, Group A. I'm going to start here. I'm only looking at Group A and Group B. Group C is the U.S., and they're coming out of that. So we'll move past that. Group A, Australia and Canada, right? Those are the 2 teams that are most likely going to come out of this one. At least that's what I believe. These are the 2 teams with the best chance. You'll recall Spain is in this group, which is why it's the group of death. And that seems pretty unfair, but I don't like this Spain team nearly as much as we have in years past, right? There's no more Gasol brothers. There's Hernan Gomez brothers. There's a lot less on this team. Now you've got Rudy Fernandez at 39 years old. Santi Aldama who's a rotation player for the Grizzlies, is going to be basically their best offensive weapon. So with that in mind, I really, really like this Canada team, and I also really like this Australia team. You can see the Australians, a ton of NBA talent on there, just not a lot of shooting. That's what stands out to you, is that the only person on here that you trust to shoot is Patty Mills, maybe a little bit of Josh Green as well, but the shooting is going to be a problem for Australia. Very big, very athletic, not as good from deep. Canada, dangerous everywhere except for down low. You can bully them because you'll see the top players on their squad here: SGA, Jamal Murray. All right, so that's going to form the second best backcourt in this tournament. You could make the argument that they're a little bit better, but I'd probably still take Steph and Devin Booker at least, and maybe some Ant. Overall, guard depth for the U.S. better than everybody, but Canada far and away second best guard depth. That's why I still think that they're going to win this group. I really, really wanted to take Australia, but I didn't, and it's not worth it for me to take the Canadians to advance in this group. It's like minus 200, so I didn't really want to mess with that. But I do want to take them to medal. And like I said, the scary part about taking a team to medal is going to be that if they get unlucky or don't play as well in the group stage, and then they make it out of the group stage into the elimination round, well, now we're talking about the possibility of having to play a very good team early on, in which case they won't even be able to make it to the semifinals to medal, right? So to be clear, medaling means they can get bronze, silver, or gold. To get the bronze, you lose in the semis, and you play a third, whatever they call it, the loser's bracket, essentially. You play the game with the third and fourth team. Now, the two teams that lose in the semis play for third place, right? So as long as they get bronze or better, Canada's good to go. I just gave you the rest of a little bit more of their lineup here. I mean, this is a filthy guard lineup. With you got Shai, Jamal, you go down to Nembhard, who really had his coming out party in the playoffs for the Pacers, and then RJ Barrett, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, plus you've got Lou Dort and Dylan Brooks. So you're bullying everybody on the wing defensively, and you're able to get into the lane and have enough shooters. I would say Nembhard and Jamal Murray really, and then a bit of Lou Dort. RJ Barrett got better, so not the best three-point shooting team in the league, but easily the second best guard play for this squad. Now, Kelly Olynyk, Trey Lyles, like Dwight Powell, these are going to be the guys that have to play down low and play well for them. Not going to compare to France or the Americans, obviously, when it comes to centers and forwards. But they've got enough here for the guards that they could pull an upset of the U.S., and I definitely expect them to be a top 3 team at the end of this tourney. Similar concept here with Germany and France. I love this German team. They are the 2023 FIBA champs, so basically defending champs internationally speaking. They've got a ton of cohesion on their squad with the Wagner brothers, Dennis Schroeder, Daniel Theis has played on this team for a while. Johann Voigtman is massive and very difficult to deal with down low. Andreas Obst is a very good shooter, and Maudo Loh is also a very good shooter. These two dudes have lit it up during qualifying. Dennis Schroeder gets a bump, by the way. He turns into the second coming of just a Michael Jordan, for lack of a better person to think of. Like, he just goes ballistic when it comes to the international play, and the FIBA rules really suit him. And he loves being the man on his team. And he's played really, really well for Germany. Kind of like Patty Mills. They just sort of get a 10x boost when they go play for their national squads. However, I watched Germany play France earlier in this qualifying before Wembanyama started playing with France. So Wemby wasn't out there. Germany goes down early, comes back, and looks way better than France for 3 quarters after losing the first quarter. Next game, Wemby's on the floor. This is a couple weeks ago. Not even close. Wemby and Rudy Gobert did their thing, so much so that then Evan Fournier, Nicolas Batum, even Yabusele, they all looked incredible. Theo Maledon was all right. Bilal Coulibaly has probably taken another step. That's something to watch out for on the Wizards this year. But with Wemby out there, man, I mean, he looks like he's taken another step when he's playing in this international stuff. Almost like he's just more comfortable being back where he was when he played in France. Dominant. I mean, absolutely murdered this Germany team, won by almost 30. Wasn't close. Germany had everybody. That really stopped me from feeling the confidence that I could just go ahead and take Germany to win this group or upset this team. So I didn't. But I can still get plus money for France to medal. And I think they might be the second best team in this tournament. I love the idea of them playing Canada, where you've got Canadian guard play versus the big men on this French squad doing their thing. Rudy Gobert looks really good at doing his thing. You put Rudy Gobert next to Wemby too. I mean, Wemby shooting like 40% from 3 on top of getting blocks, all the rebounds, all the offensive rebounds for this team. They're just playing tips at the rim. So I really, really love them with Wemby out there. It's just a completely different beast than when he's not. All right, let's take a look at these MVP odds, right? Those are my 2 favorite futures bets right now for anything outside of the MVP. I got a couple, an MVP play here, and I've got a bet on on a really nice one on draft that's only available on DraftKings. Really fun bet that is my favorite one of the tournament. I'll get into that in one sec. But what I'm looking for is who is the alpha on the USA team, because all these dudes are alphas on their individual teams, right? You look at the top 7 here, from LeBron all the way down to Tatum. They're all the alphas. They're all the best players, the best scorers, everything. But when they get together, who's the alpha, right? And there's 3 dudes that it is very much so. It's Steph, it's LeBron James, and it's Kevin Durant. Those are the 3 dudes who I see as the guy that everybody on their team will defer to, right? So Ant, for instance, a lot of hype around Ant. Going to be his coming out party. He's going to take over. This is his team, yada, yada. Well, that's coming from Ant. That ain't coming from anybody else, right? And so more importantly than what he thinks, what does everybody on his team think? And even in the qualifying, while Ant has taken a good amount of shots, it's clear who everybody defers to. That man's name is LeBron James, right? And then Steph can also do whatever he wants because everybody reveres Steph's ability to shoot. So everybody wants to play with Steph and give him the ball because it's very easy to just pass it to somebody, watch them shoot from 32 feet away, and you can run down the court and play defense, right? So those 3 dudes are the ones that I'd give the most shot to. Now, Steph has not really performed well in Olympic play at all, to be honest with you. He wasn't anywhere close to the leading scorer on the team in 2014 when he played in those games. And he did shoot 43% in that tournament, just didn't take that many shots. Before that, took a good amount of shots, was at like 35%. Tournament before that, 36%. So he does dial it down a bit in terms of his effectiveness from deep when he gets into these tourneys. So beware of him. KD, staying away from him. He might not even play the first game, so he's clearly not healthy, but they want to get him out there because he's got the most games, the leading scorer in USA basketball history. They want to get him out there. That's a good indication of why guys that guys sort of defer to the alpha. KD has always been recognized as the best scorer in the league throughout most of his career. So whenever he's made it to Olympic basketball, everyone's like, get it to the best scorer in the league on offense. And that helped him get the points. Joel, not there. This is his first time playing with the team. Doesn't look as nearly as good as AD, who I do like a lot, and we'll talk about him in one sec. And Tatum, also not going to be the dude that is the alpha on this team. He's going to defer to the LeBrons and Stephs of the world. Next tournament, it's going to be Tatum's team. Now, the last 3 guys, I would consider a bet on SGA because you need to win this tournament, and I think Canada has the second or third best chance of winning this tournament. Wembanyama, I don't know that they're going to use him enough to get him the points, but I stayed away from him, even though he's a decent bet. But Joker and Franz, also 2 dudes that have a reasonable shot at winning it if their teams win the whole thing. I'm staying away because I don't think Serbia or Germany are going to win this turn. So who am I betting on? Anthony Davis. That's my favorite one here. I got one more too because it's plus 900 for him to win. So you can sprinkle a couple of futures and you only need one of them to hit. Still going to make some good money. I've got half a unit on him to win this MVP at 900 to get 4.5 units back. He's got a history of dominating in this tournament. He played really well last time out in 2014, getting a ton of rebounds. Now, he was at about 12.5 points, 6.5 boards in that one. But A, he's gotten better. And B, this is like his team as a big man. Now, Embiid is starting. He's looked so much better than Embiid so far and has played so much better. It's starting to make me think, should we be recognizing AD as the better player? But not really, because he's less consistent on offense than Embiid. But he is consistent enough, and he's different than everybody else. He's going to get a ton of rebounds. I got him to lead the team in rebounds. Talk about that in a second. And it's basically there's not as many players doing what he does. He gets a ton of blocks. He's averaging 3.5 in qualifying. He averaged more than 2 in the last tournament in 2014. So between the points, rebounds, and blocks, I only need him to get the 12 to 15 a game in the points column. If he's getting double-digit rebounds and he's getting those blocks, great, man. We're looking good. And he's gotten more than his fair share of rebounds, averaging about 10 in qualifying, leading the team far and away. So really like him to be the dude to stand out because of the things that he does slightly differently than an Ant or a Steph. They need his skills, which are different from the other guys on the team. So he's going to stand out a ton. Love the plus 900 for him to win the MVP. I am going to give LeBron a half a unit as well because he's plus 400 on DraftKings. Make sure you shop these. DraftKings and FanDuel have much different lines up and odds for these MVPs and for a lot of stuff. So you want to make sure you shop between those two and anybody else offering you Olympic bets as well. But I took this on DraftKings at plus 400, half a unit for LeBron. Yeah, I mean, it's the best narrative, man. He's the king. He's the best player in the history of basketball, unless you're a Michael Jordan guy. I don't want to get into that. Please don't jump in the comments with that stuff. Either way, LeBron is the best player of the last 25 years, and is going to be playing in his last Olympics this time around. So, that's one thing. The narrative is there, but he's also the dude that is going to close games and has proven that like when they need a bucket, he's like, all right, I'll just put my head down and go, man, and go get us what we need. That happened in the South Sudan game where he made sure they won by hitting that clinching basket. And then he also did that same thing in their last game against Germany, where they were starting to struggle and lose to Germany down the stretch. He just started to take it on, scored 11 points in the fourth quarter. That type of narrative in a championship game or throughout this tournament is going to be the type of thing where it's like LeBron saved us. So even if he's not averaging the most points or the most rebounds or the most assists on the team, which I think he might lead the team in assists, he'll be up there in points, he'll get enough rebounds, and it's the way in which he'll be helping this team out that'll be pretty obvious. That's why I wrote bully ball is better than good shooting, because he's going to be able to do that at will. And when he does, it's going to look really dominant. And then we're going to all be like, yeah, this man is the MVP. Last bet, though, this is my favorite bet of the tourney, and you can get AD. I believe it's actually at plus 140 right now. I hit it at plus 130, so it's only going up, but he is the man I believe is going to lead the USA team specifically in rebounding. And this is only available on DraftKings. I hinted at it a minute ago. And for AD, like, look, it's either him or Embiid. Maybe you think it's Bam, but AD is a much better rebounder than both Bam and Joel Embiid. I just want to make that very clear. Joel does play outside on offense a ton, so he's not getting quite as many offensive boards. He hasn't been moving that well either. It kind of seems like, especially in qualifying, he's like, well, I'm not getting hurt. So I still think that's there for him. For AD, like, look, he's got 9.8 rebounds a game in qualifying. Joel's got 3 less than that and is second on the team. And AD didn't even get that many minutes in a couple of these games. Now, he did see at least 18 minutes in 3 or 4 different qualifying matchups, got at least 10 rebounds in all of those, and was the only one to get double-digit rebounds in all of those. And he's shown this in the Olympics already. He got 6.5 boards a game in like less than 20 minutes a game, right? Now I think he should be good for 18 to 22-ish minutes per game. Like, you can't keep him off the floor with how he's playing. Plus the blocks as well, averaging more than 2 in his Olympic career in actual play. In this qualifying play, over 3 blocks per game, had a 6-block game. So he's just doing his thing all over the place, man. Without the defensive 3 seconds as well, he's going to get a ton of blocks, going to lead to a lot of rebounds as well. So I'm really feeling good about AD leading this. Like, this is my favorite bet of the tournament, plus 140 on DraftKings for him to lead this team in rebounding throughout the tourney. And that is all the time I have for you in this futures bets for the Olympic preview. Games start on Saturday, the 27th of July. So make sure you tune in for those. I'm going to be coming back this week as well with videos for the first day of games, 4 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. So I'll be going through the slate and giving you the best bets that I have for each of those games as well. Some play-up props for sure, and then some sides and totals we'll get in there. So make sure to subscribe to that page. Got all this stuff going early in the Discord as well. Gonna have some big news coming in the Discord, so definitely make sure to jump in while it's free right now and get everything that we have in there from some really smart bettors helping me out. And until I see you next, happy betting.